I've started over 20 different businesses over my entrepreneurial career, and every single business that I started, I thought was going to be like the one that took me to the moon and changed my hopes, my dreams, and all that good stuff. The reality is that most of them failed, but some of them didn't. Some of them worked. And I truly feel like if you want to get ahead in life, you better have some auxiliary income other than just like a W-2 wage, right? Because you are never going to truly get financially free if you are working for the man or you're trading time for dollars. You've got to figure out a way how to make money while you're sleeping. Until you do, you're literally going to work until the day that you die. And I'm not saying that you can't make a lot of money working for somebody else, but the reality is that if you're working for somebody else, the person that's getting rich is the person you're working for. If you truly want to move the financial needle for yourself, you better start a business, in my opinion, all right? You look at the people that are killing it the most, they're all entrepreneurs, people that were willing to take a chance, swing the bat, and take a risk. In my opinion, every single one of you should start a business or a side hustle or figure out some auxiliary means of making some dinero. But the big question is, how do you pick? Right? How do you know what business to go into? What businesses are going to be more apt to be successful? Which businesses are kind of doomed to fail from the very start? Well, today what I want to do is that video. And then next week I want to do the other video. Today I want to talk about some businesses that in my opinion I would stay away from in 2026. I just don't feel like the juice is worth the squeeze. And then next week, I want to do the opposite. I want to talk about some businesses that I think are like just going to explode in 2026. And if I was starting over, these are the ones that I would actually go into. All right, before we get into that, why don't you drop me one of these to be like, yo, Alpha, good to see you. Happy New Year. So now let's talk about businesses that I personally think suck. Please note, these are in no particular order of sucking. They all suck, in my opinion, all right? All right, and before we get into this list, I just want you to know if you have a question about business or entrepreneurship or life in general or just my philosophy and anything, I will answer it down below. Start it with question and ask, all right? Each week at the end of these videos, I like to dive into your questions and answer them because quite frankly, I like to hear myself talk. I'm kidding. Not really. Number one, FBA, all right? Fulfillment by Amazon. That whole model is done. In terms of a capital, don't do it. It's done, it's dead, don't even think about it, all right? The whole like just going, finding a product that sells a lot, going to China, sourcing the product, selling it on Amazon, letting Amazon fulfill it, that model is so dead it's ridiculous. Why is it dead? Because competition, number one, is fierce. Number two, all right, if you don't have a strong brand, you're going to sell zero. Because in the world that Amazon basically resides in now, you need to make sure that you have reviews. All right, you've got to basically sell enough product or unit in order to basically get people to rate or rank your product high. As it climbs organically, it will start to get some organic sales. But now, it takes so long and so much effort in order to get any sales and to get any reviews, it's basically a losing battle. The people that win on Amazon now are people that build brands and are strategic about what they're actually selling. All right, that whole model, it's dead in my opinion. The other problem is that Amazon now has made it almost financially impossible to win if you don't have a product that is basically something that is high search volume and that is in demand. I mean, their fees are really expensive. The FBA fees are increasing. The cost of advertising, competition, there's so many reasons why I would not get into the FBA business, all right? But if you're somebody that wants to start a brand and build a brand, all right, if people are searching for your brand online on Amazon, this is a way to actually win, which we'll talk about a little bit more next week. Number two is low skill freelancing like Fiverr, like $5 logo design. AI is just eating your lunch and replace the bottom like 60% of you. Don't even think about it. Number three is blogging and making ad revenue, all right? So this is, again, dead. I'm gonna give you an example. My buddy Antonio Centeno, he had one of the most popular men's style blogs online. And at his peak and pinnacle, he was doing over like 2 million page views a month. In the old days, the way that it worked is if you were a blogger, you had a passion, you wanted to write about something or create like articles, you put it out there and then Google would pick it up. And the more people that searched it, they would go to your website, you would get some organic traffic, and then you would sell advertising or ad revenue through a platform like AdThrive or something like that. And the more page views you'd get, the more money you'd actually make. Well, that model, dead, done. Don't even think about it. Why? Because AI, again, has just eaten your lunch. Antonio, 2 million page views a month, all right? He used to make literally like $30,000 a month in just ad revenue, all right? It was like raining money. But then all of a sudden, what happened? AI. So now when you Google search anything, if like you're Google searching how to tie a Windsor knot, right? What do you see? All right, Google shows you the AI generated response. They went to the website, Antonio's or whoever is doing the thing and writing this stuff. It's sourcing or grabbing all of this information and then it's giving it to you first when you actually search something. And so literally like overnight, Antonio went from like 2 million page views to like 200,000 page views. He went from $30,000 a month to 2,000, literally overnight. Next up, one of my favorites, online courses without credibility or an audience. All right, so number one, if you want to sell anything in terms of any info product or online course, you need to have credibility in today's world. It's not good enough just to take somebody else's course, regurgitate it, create your own, and then figure out the whole marketing mechanism, all right? Build an audience. Now, you really need credibility in terms of your audience isn't going to buy something from somebody that hasn't actually done or doesn't have the receipts to show for what they've actually accomplished that they're helping or teaching you to do. All right. So number one, you better have the credibility if you're going to do any type of info product or course. Number two is an audience. All right. Gone are the days of you just basically creating something, figuring out marketing and getting it in front of a bunch of people. You need to build the trust, build the credibility first, then create an offer or a product and then sell it, all right? A lot of people in the old days would create the product and then find the audience. Now, it's about credibility, it's about trust, and then you can sell them. Print on demand, anything, clothing, mugs, t-shirts, you name it. Thumbs down. The margin isn't there, and Etsy and all these different places and websites are flooded with it. The other reality is that AI makes like design kind of archaic, right? AI is going to make a better design than you could nowadays, honestly, and it's just the margin isn't there. All right, there is an exception. If you have like a big audience or hyper niche, then you can still make some money. But in terms of like print on demand, like if you go to a place and design something or a funny slogan and you try to sell it, you're going to make like $1. It's basically a race to the financial bottom. Don't even think about it. YouTube automation channels, basically the faceless AI slop that you were seeing. A lot of AI in that regards, it's not winning, all right? And you are not going to be able to create a faceless YouTube channel and have these prompts and it's gonna make you a video and then all you gotta do is count the money. It's dead, all right? And the reason why it's dead is there's so much shit out there. YouTube has actually cracked down on a lot of the AI content. And honestly, people are starting to get a little bit sketchy and weird about engaging with that type content if they don't already know like what they're getting. Like if you go to some of these websites like Instagram or TikTok, there's a lot of AI content that people are kind of like, okay, this is fun. But in terms of developing a platform with a following base that you can potentially monetize in the future on YouTube, you've got to have a more personalized touch and leave AI to do something else. Becoming a crypto bro. And this one I just want to throw out there because, here's the deal. 99% of people that invest in crypto make emotional trades or decisions, and 99% of people end up losing money. All right, by the time you're hearing about it, chances are the game is over. The people that were going to make the real money have made it. And I'm not saying like I know anything about crypto. I don't, which is why I don't have crypto, which is why I'm trying to prevent you from making bad decisions. I have lost a ton of money investing in other things that I thought I knew about, right? Someday I'll tell you about the the men's makeup company I lost $150,000 in. But that will be a video for another time. But anyway, you've really got to be careful when it comes to investing. I will say this, investing in yourself, investing in your skills and learning a new trade that can potentially be higher value and you actually make more money is always a great investment. All right. Also, if you're going to be investing your money, instead of doing something that's like kind of like a get rich quick, the fundamentals still work. All right. Investing in something as simple as like the Vanguard S&P 500 like ETF, that is up like 240% over the past like 10 years. All right. You don't need to think about it. You just take your extra money, you dump it in there, and just over time, it grows. But there are a lot of other, ETFs that you can get involved with, or start a, Roth IRA, or if you're self-employed, a defined benefits plan. There are a lot of mechanisms and vehicles out there that will help you get to financial freedom that are just kind of fundamental investments that over time will grow. Is it going to give you a 5 times return in 3 months? No. But anything that basically claims that it can help you make a ton of money that's too good to be true, typically always is. This generic drop shipping through like AliExpress or one of these other kind of platforms, all right? Shipping time kills you, all right? The other thing that kills you is basically not really having control over the quality of the item that you're actually selling. And everybody kind of knows the game. You can just go on Amazon and get something that you're looking for in literally, a day, as opposed to going to your website, even if you have, an audience, or even if you figure out the advertising model, because that's the other thing that kills the whole drop shipping model is your advertising cost, or your CAC, your customer acquisition cost, usually is like really high and your margin isn't all that great. And in my opinion, the whole just like drop shipping platform and industry in general is dead. Real estate. The last thing I just want to talk about real quick is the whole real estate model that was very popular a few years ago before the interest rates went really high. All right, you could basically find an asset or a multi-family unit. You put down a little bit of a deposit, but the bank's going to lend you X and you're going to charge this, and then you're going to basically make the delta between the interest and the rent that you're actually getting. All right, that doesn't work right now unless you have cash that you could basically buy something. Like, the interest rate basically kills that entire model. And the things that you don't realize, even if like you think, oh, I'm gonna make a pretty decent return or break even, all of the expenses that you don't realize, the property taxes, the shit that breaks, the maintenance, it's going to eat into the money, and you ultimately end up losing money at the end of the month or end of the year. And so that model right now, I don't feel is a good model. But when it comes to borrowing money at a specific interest rate, spending it here, getting something for that, you got to make sure that the math works, because if you're basically paying more in interest than you're making in profit, it just doesn't work. The numbers just don't work. And if the numbers don't work, the business is doomed and will not work at all. Gentlemen, now let's get to your business question. But just to remind you, next week, I want to actually do the opposite of this video. I want to do a video talking about some of the best opportunities in 2026. Down below, though, I want to know, what do you think? What is a business that's dead, like you shouldn't even think about going into right now? Or what is a business that you think is on the upswing or has opportunity in the coming year, 2026? Now, your business questions. The first business question comes from our friend Fit Nero. He says, can you speak about how you go about creating a business plan for the following year and what data you should be looking at? Would be very helpful with an in-depth video. There's a lot of great videos out there about it online, but yeah, so there are better videos out there online that can tell you what you need to know for a business plan. It really boils down to, what is the purpose of this business plan? Where are you going? Why are you using it, right? Is it just for you to have knowledge so that you can think through the business or the process of starting a business, marketing the business, and running the business, and the numbers and all that? Is it just for you putting it down so you can see it? Or is it for a bank to get an SBA loan or some type of loan? I did that when I was starting my fitness center, Move It. I had to do a business plan. It was like 40 pages long. It went through all the numbers, all the potential customers in the area, and what the average income is for the specific demographic, and it helped me get a SBA loan. All right, you're going to need it for that. If you're going to go out and seek investment, you're going to need a business plan. All right, you're going to need a deck. A lot of companies will call it a deck, right? Where you put together basically the numbers and a vision of what you are wanting to do and how you're going to be going about it, and painting a picture. All right, if you're going to be getting money from somebody else, they're going to need to see it. And it's not just you like telling them about it. When it comes down to somebody writing you a check or investing in your dream or your vision, they want to feel more comfortable than just taking your word for it or having just a casual conversation. All right, ChatGPT can help you put together a business plan. That's the beautiful thing. You put in all the information about the business, what you're wanting to do, and ChatGPT can pretty much spit you out something that's going to be awesome, and then you change it, you modify it. But The one thing, there's only really one thing that I would focus on if it was me. And this is for you, and just hear me out. This is for you, this is for me, like marketing. That's it. That's the number one thing that you need to figure out. Too often, people put together business plans and they think about everything, right? They think about how they're going to get their product, how it's going to be made, their audience, and why it's going to be amazing, and foot traffic, and this, and it's going to cost you this. But the one thing, the number one most important thing when it comes to selling anything is marketing. It comes down to marketing. How are you going to market it? How are you going to get it in front of the people that potentially are going to buy it for a cost that's going to still leave you enough room for profit? Whether or not it's LTV, you have none of that data. You don't know what the lifetime value of a customer is. And so this is one of the downsides to like a business plan or, hypothetically thinking about a business. You have no data. If you've been in business for a year, 2 years, 3 years, then you start to get real numbers. And it's these real numbers that are a lot easier to basically leverage in terms of getting loans, getting investment, like just a business plan. It's all just hypothesis, if I'm being honest. You don't have a track record of anything. And so for me, I'm more about, let me see if I can get this thing launched and figure out that marketing. How can I advertise it? What can I do? How can I sell it? That is the hardest part of any business. There are a lot of amazing products, amazing businesses that have gone bankrupt and broke that you've never heard about because they didn't figure out that one component and aspect. And if you think it's just going to be, I'm going to pay influencers, that's the wrong answer because that model doesn't work. The next business question comes from our friend K Sagaretti 3604. He says, Alpha, speaking of businesses and business problems, what happened with Jose and his brand companies? Is there any business lessons we need to learn? And I think you're speaking of Jose Zuniga. I'm not sure. Jose and I haven't spoken in a really long time. I don't really keep up with him or his content anymore, and so I'm not sure. Does he not have his businesses anymore? I have no idea. But Jose was super successful when he was doing his thing. I just don't know what is going on with him. So that is that. Let's look for another. Okay, here's another one. From Stephen Longstrength. He goes, I run a POD apparel brand, Young and Vintage Co. for 3 years on Etsy. Low margins, oversaturated, and creative limits have kept it from fully reflecting my vision. I'm considering custom overseas production for better control margins and full creative styling, but I hesitate due to the inventory risk and lack of marketing confidence. As an introvert, but also creative artist, social media feels especially daunting. From your experience, how would you overcome the fear of inventory and marketing risk when you believe in the product but struggle with promotion? You want what do you think I'm going to say? I'm going to say it's a lot easier right now for you without the overhead, without the inventory, without the risk. If you can't figure out marketing now on this level, you have no business investing more into the business or brand, in my opinion. Because think about it. Okay, your margins are better. So what? Now you've tied up more money in inventory. You don't know what's going to sell. You don't know what size it. Like apparel in and of itself is a really hard business. Period. All right, it's hard for everybody. And if you are, doing things like here and getting it like private labeled, you're going to have smaller margins. But I would rather you have smaller margins and figure it out from a marketing perspective versus taking a big risk and taking a big swing, because then you're going to be in the exact same position, except now you've used all this money and tied it up in inventory. Even if you've got better margins, it really doesn't matter. You've got to figure out marketing. The next question comes from our friend Taste the Rainbow 459. Could you talk about taxes, how they work for a business? How much should you put aside from what you make? Taxes are something you better figure out and understand they're going to happen, all right? The basic understanding is, or the basic concept is, all right, you're going to have expenses in your business. It's going to cost you money to run your business. It's going to cost you money in inventory and product, whatever it is, all right? And then you're going to have basically revenue, okay? So whatever you make, call it $1,000. If your expenses are going to be $500, you're going to have $500 worth of profit, all right? You're going to need to pay taxes on that $500 because as a single member LLC or a sole proprietorship or just you running the show, you are taxed. It flows directly through to you. It's like regular income, all right? What people do is they basically figure out how to get that profit at the end of the year, end of the month, down as low as you can, whether or not it's, investing in new technology. There are different things that you can do, setting up some type of defined benefits plan, putting away money in like a 401k that your company sets up for you, self-directed IRA or whatever it is. There are things that you can do to get that profit down, but anything left over, you've got to pay regular income tax, all right? So depending on what your tax bracket is, like if you make $1 million worth of profit, you're in the top tax bracket, all that money, you've got to basically spend whatever, almost 50% of that, depending on where you live, you're going to have to spend it or give it back to the government. And so, taxes are just something that people don't think about as much as they need to. All right. And at the end of the year, like if you're having a good year and you don't plan or you don't put money away or prepare for taxes and you think, oh, all this money is my money. If I made $500, I'm going to spend $500. All right. Or if you make $1 million, you're like, I'm going to spend $1 million. No, you can only spend 500,000 because 500,000 of that million is going back to Uncle Sam. You got to get a good accountant. That is the best advice I can give you. But taxes, they suck, but they're part of the process. The next question comes from our friend Ethan Height. He says, what are some impactful ways a successful business can give back to their community and surrounding businesses, and how far should you sphere of positive impact reach? So I'm a big, humongous supporter of my community. I really do believe in the community that I live. Marietta, I love it, right? So I am constantly being approached in my community by like things that happen or people that have like events or charities or whatever. They'll reach out to me because they know, I'm in this community, I talk about it, I love it, and I do have businesses. And whenever you donate to a charity through your businesses, it is tax deductible, meaning we just talked about taxes. So if you have $500,000 and you donate, and you're going to be taxed on that 500, if you donate $100,000, all right, now you're only taxed on 400,000. That 100,000 that you donated, you're not getting taxed on that, but you also don't have it in your pocket. But if there's a way to make an impact, I feel like it's a good thing, depending on what it is. Some people get carried away, but for me, I donate to a few different charities, all right? Some of the events here, they require, or not require, they lean on corporate sponsors like Chalktoberfest. It's a big festival in my town that I love. And so I'll buy a square for Pete and Pedro. Salon Posta will also buy a square. Each square is like $2,500. Another one that I do is the holiday tour of homes, where I will sponsor a house. It's like $2,500. And I'm doing that through my business. I also am a big sponsor of something called Ring the Bell. It's a charity to help fight childhood cancer. It's started by my friend Jen and Grant Rivera. They basically have a child that had cancer, Reese, and they basically do a fundraiser. Great event, and I sponsor that. It's like $5,000 through my business. And then I was invited to another big charity thing for cancer. It's called Cure Childhood Cancer, and it was like an auction and charity event, and my business donated $15,000 to that. And so like it's something that I do just from a personal, I feel like it's a cause that I want to get behind, and I trust that the money that I'm investing is going to a good cause. But there are other things that I do from a personal level. So this year alone, I've donated like $25,000 through my businesses to charitable events or charity. And that's something that I like doing, and it feels good to help where I can. But I also simultaneously set up something personally for basically children in the school system, and I do that myself. My wife set up the Marino Family Fund, which basically helps children in need, because my area, even though it's a beautiful area, it also has like a big population or percentage that is in need. And so our fund is basically designed to allow the Chief Impact Officer, Kim Blass, in our community, the ability to basically utilize our money to help children in need. And, it's basically anything from providing them rent money if they have like a house fire, or it's children that, don't have money for food or school supplies or whatever. They can go to this fund, and it's kind of like a slush fund for them just to help people and children in our area basically get through school so that they can graduate and move on. So there are things that you can do from a business perspective and a personal perspective, and I would recommend you do what is comfortable, but never feel pressured. That's one of the things that, I think a lot of people do feel a little bit of pressure when people ask them like, hey, can you donate to this and that? If you can invest in your business, I would say do that first, all right? Investing and helping the community, I think, is a great thing, but only after you've taken care of your baby, which is your business. And the last business question comes from my friend, Gary Hernandez. So he says, hey, Aaron, my question is, I'm on the shorter side, 5'7". When you go into a business meeting with a group of people to sell you and your business, I feel I need to represent myself harder so they don't look at my size as a shorter individual and think my business is as well. Have you ever felt that way? So I never really feel that way when it comes to business, but I definitely feel that way just from a networking perspective. And so for me, it's always about being the best dressed guy in the room and making sure that I'm always well groomed and I can speak well and I can make small talk. And so that's how I kind of overcome the height thing, because I totally get it. I also will take out like my earrings and do certain things that will limit the amount that people can form an opinion of me on some of the nonverbal communicating that I'm doing, knowing that I am a shorter guy. This is going to sound weird, but once you have become successful and you walk into rooms, it changes things. A lot of times now when I walk into a room, people want something from me, and so it doesn't matter if I'm 5'6" and a little bit or whatever. Like, people are coming to me for something, and so that puts me in a position of power. If you're going and trying to sell yourself, I don't think it really matters. I know to you it probably does. Like, psychologically, there is this like inferiority complex that a lot of shorter men have. But the bottom line is, insecurity, it is invisible. And you're the only one that really knows that you're feeling that way. And so for me, it's about being confident, being dressed really well, being well groomed, being able to speak eloquently, and knowing what I'm talking about. And that in and of itself is one of the best things you can do. And if you can help people make money, or you're giving them an opportunity, they don't look at height. They look at cash, because cash is king. It doesn't matter if you're 5'2" or 77'3". If you can help somebody make money, that's really what it's about. And so be confident, be awesome. You're a badass. Remember that. Gentlemen, that's where I'm going to wrap things up. Down below, if you have a business question, start it with question and ask it. Next week, I'm going to go over my pick for the best businesses of 2026.